So business owners looking to get into a partnership or a joint venture, here's a little insight for you. An honest conversation about what happens when one of you wants out is going to beat 6 months of optimistic partnership momentum. Here's why the conversation is so important and how to have it before any money moves. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through three structural decisions that determine whether your joint venture is going to be moving towards building something or it's going to become the most expensive relationship that you regret. And if you want this joint venture risk assessment framework to map your joint venture gaps before you formalize anything, just drop partner in the comments below and I'll send it over to you. My name is Ramesh Hettiarch. I'm the founder of Signal Lawyers, an AI-enhanced law firm that's serving Ontario small business owners. Now, we help entrepreneurs and business owners structure the decisions that define their trajectories before the decisions are made under pressure. Now, in these videos, I'm sharing one insight to help you make more informed decisions. Now, imagine two business owners who want to work together, and the conversation has moved from we should be doing something together to let's start operating. But underneath all of the excitement, there are 5 or 6 foundational questions that neither person has asked, let alone answered, not because they're avoiding them, but because the momentum feels like it's the wrong time to slow down and ask and make a decision on. Now, most business owners will start operating before structuring. They'll build their joint venture on mutual goodwill and a shared understanding that really hasn't been tested. They'll tell themselves that they're entrepreneurial. They'll sort out the legal details once the model is proven. But what they don't know is that the decisions that they're deferring are going to be more expensive to make later. And this doesn't work because when you're deferring the structural conversation, it means that it's going to make it much harder to have a conversation if things are successful or if things are harder. For example, let's say that you're operating on a split basis. The split feels fair at first, but then less so. Let's say the joint venture starts generating revenue and both parties are contributing unevenly. One person is bringing more clients, the other one is just doing more of the work. Now, the conversation that would have taken 40 minutes before money move will now take 6 months and maybe even more lawyers. The goodwill that made the joint venture possible is the first casualty of the structural gap that nobody's addressed. And this is why you need to have structural clarity on what the joint venture looks like sooner rather than later. And this structural clarity takes the form of 3 areas of decision making. First, the ownership and contribution. What is each party owning in the venture and what party is contributing to that ownership? And I'd encourage you to think about this not in general terms, but with some specificity. So, for example, you might want to talk about intellectual property, like relationships, time, labor, capital. Map all of this explicitly because too often what one person thinks is fair is not going to be the same as the other partner or partners. Surface these issues early while there's nothing less than nothing. Surface these issues early while the partnership is in its infancy. Now, the second area that you need to be looking at is decision-making authority. Far too often, joint ventures fall into disputes because there's disagreements on how to move forward. So there might be smaller decisions that one party makes that another party is not happy with. And over time, those things compound to become a bit of a mess. So identify who decides what. Operational decisions, financial commitments, client agreements, hiring. What are the things that require everybody to agree on? And what are the things that each party can, or one party can act independently of the others? And then the last piece that we need to be thinking about is the question that most people don't ask before they start. What happens if someone wants out? Now, this doesn't mean that something's going to go wrong. It means that some of these circumstances change. Maybe there's change in strategy or strategic shift. If someone, let's say, wants to move to a different country, how is the venture valued at that point, and how does the person or the venture accommodate that person leaving? What does that person walk away with? Maybe who has the right to buy the other party out and on what terms? Asking these questions before starting is not being pessimistic. It's just being realistic. And you are more likely to protect the relationship by removing that ambiguity rather than not asking it and then destroying the relationship. And again, this sort of strategy works because it's separating the emotional momentum of this new venture from the key decisions that ensures that this is going to be a good deal for all parties. And the best part is you don't necessarily need a lawyer to have the conversation. You just need a framework. Most of the things that I do with a client is after they made some sort of decisions, some key fundamental business decisions. And these can really be hashed out between two business owners in an informal meeting. The pieces that require formal legal structuring are done after this consensus is reached. And they're frankly a lot cheaper to handle before the venture is operating and after some initial decisions are made, rather than afterwards where things are a lot harder to unwind things. Now, where you might need a lawyer is where you don't know the right questions to ask or where you're having difficulty coming to a consensus. That's really where a lawyer can fit in. Now, if you want the joint venture risk assessment framework, the tool that maps the ownership contribution, the things you'll be thinking about in your venture, just drop Potter in the comments and I'll send it over to you. You can literally sit down with the framework before your next JV conversation with your partner and walk through it together. Surface these assumptions, make visible the gaps in understanding, and then what would have taken 6 months and a whole bunch of legal fees can be done in an honest and a far cheaper way at the right moment. Chat soon. Cheers.